Welcome to Project Pack 24. This is Molly.
And this is Martha.
I bet you can't guess which one is which.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us today. We're pretty excited. This particular project pack, it's a great one. We say this every time, but we're really enjoying it. And it is all part of this year-long celebration of Zentangle's 20th anniversary. And it's been such a wonderful time kind of slowly going through all our favorite components of history of the method and all the things that we love. And there's so much of it, but one of the things we really wanted to celebrate was one of the fundamental techniques that we use in the Zentangle method, and that is aura.
Aura. Oh, aura is so graceful,
really
forgiving.
Just love her.
Such guidance.
Yeah, amazing.
We really love aura.
So this project pack and this lesson today will feature aura, and this beautiful little booklet that Martha has in front of her is all about aura.
Yes, this is a darling booklet, and it is coincidentally the same size as some of our other project pack booklets. They kind of fit all nicely together. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, I do have a fondness for the project packs that have the little booklets. They're just so charming, and this one's an extra special one. It's dedicated to aura. And
so there's, so as Molly was mentioning, this is all the materials that you see in front of you right now are what we are using throughout this series. And of course, if you don't have this project pack, you're very welcome to follow along with anything you have at home. You can even create your own moon and follow along with us. This is the spread that we're going to be using today. And the pens, we have 2 different thicknesses of micron black pens and a graphite pencil, a charcoal white pencil, and a shade of blue chalk. Any shade of blue will do. Mm-hmm. And then this really cool silver shadow jelly roll. Really fun little element that can add. Yeah, well,
that's all we need.
Yeah, that's all we need.
We're ready to go, and we're excited to start tangling with you today. And before we begin, we are going to just spend a minute here trying to get ourselves ready for our tangling practice. And that might mean for you sort of putting aside all of your distractions, maybe adjusting your seat. Whatever it is for you, you can pause the video if you need more time, but we welcome that. And of course, we welcome a minute to slow down your breath and just give yourself a minute to think about something you're grateful for. Give yourself a minute to focus on your breath, the opportunity, the time. And remember, they can always come back to here at any point in time when you need to. You ready to draw, Martha?
I am ready. Ready to tangle. I love this page as it is. Actually, I'm feeling a little
very sweet,
trepidatious here, attempting to make it any better because in its simplicity, it's really gorgeous.
For those of you just joining us, the moon theme throughout these books, you're like, how is that connected to aura? And the connection is that the tangle that aura really first gets taught usually is the tangle crescent moon. Mm-hmm. And of course, we're playing with that idea of the moon being sort of a symbolic, I guess, symbol of aura for us.
Aura, yes. And probably our primary technique that we use.
Yeah, for sure.
So I am jumping right in with a pen. I've got the Micron 05 here, a nice thick pen. And checking out this moon, I am going to be using the outline of the moon as my guide. And you're welcome to watch for a minute and follow along with me. But we're basically going to travel around the moon. Oh, we're going to travel around the moon.
Oh, that's fun.
And of course, my first stroke is going to be an aura line. And I'm really kind of enjoying these ever so slightly bumpy edges. And you see, I just came back and kind of landed on the original aura line.
I love that. And
it's a bit like a stretched out
whippersnapper.
Oh yeah. or a flux. So, and I'm leaving a little bit of a space in between. I'm kind of honoring that first aura space and using this as a tangle that my elements don't touch.
Yeah,
it doesn't happen
like
all the time.
It's like a teardrop with a flat side.
Yeah, come around and land on my initial line. But I love all these like gentle hand-drawn edges.
I love that you're paying attention to them. It's kind of nice.
Well, to me, that's what makes it so special.
And I think the the pre-drawn shapes on here are a really cool way of practicing elegance of limits, because you're starting with some predetermined thing that's there, right? And it sort of forces a different type of thing differently than a blank page would.
So these teardrops or flux are following around the edge. And when I come to this edge here, I'm actually going to just do the same thing, but I'm going to go around the horn here.
Oh, very nicely done. So instead of auraing with just a plain line, she's auraing with shapes, which is a cool concept to introduce.
And it's still creating that sort of space there, even though not all the lines are touching. All right, so we're building here. We're going to build essentially kind of radiating borders out from the moon. So I'm going back to where I started here, and I'm going to mimic this shape that I just drew, again with the same motion, and so it won't be quite the same shape as, say, a flux. It's going to have I'm going to come around and then do it again, and if there's room, again. Just simple.
I love what Martha's doing here, because she really is using aura. Like, she's using that shape that's already there to kind of dictate what is going to happen with her lines, and it's creating a really cool pattern.
Yeah, so I'm actually really working hard not to make it a teardrop, because that's not what's here. It's just a little bit different, and every element that I'm drawing is auraing the one before it. And so there's all kinds of spaces now that are kind of talking to each other.
And it's so cool when perhaps you had like a little wiggle and a bump in your line beforehand. It's like that new line will welcome that as part of its character.
All right, this one's a little trickier. There. All right, so now going back to honoring the moon here, I kind of couldn't help myself, and I thought that we would add a little bit of crescent moon in here. I'm going to leave a little sparkle inside as well. However you want to account for that missing inked spot. Everybody has their own system. I kind of like to make a little circle and then I'll go around it. Gentle aura. Something about coming back to these early tangles that we learn that feels so comforting. We know the strokes. So because these little shapes do remind me of flux, you can add a little kind of a quick quick little stroke there, just another small detail. And I think that we will give this moon a fresh aura.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So now we've got kind of some fun shapes to play with. Quite a lot, in fact.
The coolest thing about aura lines is like you would never have just drawn that line by itself without all of the beautiful things that came before it. So it's such a unique journey that it takes that's so dependent on all that other stuff.
Yeah, it really embodies the whole methodology of the way we approach our tangling, is that you cannot have this stroke without the previous one. Something like this I find helpful to kind of come back on your pen a little bit so your hand doesn't get in the way of seeing where you have to go next.
I'm sure we could come up with a name for it all its own, but it really is a tangulation of crescent moon the way you came about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool.
Should we do it again?
Should we do it again? Oh,
yeah.
Aura again? Yeah. I'm like, should we do the whole thing again?
Yeah, let's do it again. We're gonna do another one. Yeah, give a little bit of space.
Yeah, so she's giving it a little bit more space. I think she might have something in mind. A lot of times it's sort of an aura. If it gets so bumpy, you might have just
This idea.
An idea or a, impression of it.
Aura is this funny thing when you're, especially on something like this, because all I can think of is, we probably talked about this before, the telephone game where, you start out, I'm like, this is how wide my aura is.
Right.
And by the time I get all the way around the other side, it's, maybe it's changed a little, but, we can figure that out. All right, so in this last little edge, I'm going to further dramatize this situation and add some Knightsbridge. Again, the Knightsbridge will honor all the little edges and...
Well, the drama will kind of make that border feel more established.
Well, also, I'm not filling in squares because my border space is kind of unique. So I think this border is kind of fancying it all up here. Another layer of adornment to our beloved moon.
I think the drama was helpful. It kind of it's pulling it together.
I'll have to remember that. Oh yeah, that's so much fun. Awesome. What do you think? Should we add another couple of layers?
So.
You want to give it a go?
I think so.
All right, Martha. So this is actually stunning, and what I would say to anyone is that if you're looking at this and you're like so happy with it and you just want to leave it, then just leave it. But because this is a class and because we're exploring, I also would say just paper and try, see what comes at us. You can always watch it first and then decide.
That's a great idea. You can watch, see if it's something you want to add to your expression on your page, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be awesome.
So fun. So when Martha and I were discussing what to do next, we thought about all the different kinds of auras, and so far we've done a lot of like really close auras, and so for this next step, we're going to try to like stretch it out a little bit and really make the aura come out a lot further and see how that sort of becomes more of sort of an implied aura, and it's not so exact, but also is like a really cool shape that's reacting to what's there. So this doesn't have to be exact, and you can kind of eyeball it, but I'm going to go like way out here to begin my aura and sort of playfully try to respond to this. I'm not going to like pretend that it's as easy as when it's close, because you really have to think a little bit harder because you're further away and you're kind of playing around with it. So let's just give it a whirl. I'm going to start out here, kind of playing around, goes in a little bit. Like I said, it's a little more implied.
And it's all it really needs to be. It has the idea that it's doing exactly what you want, even if it isn't exact.
I'm kind of trying to do like some indents where I see it really dents in. But I encourage you to go slow and just take your time. And then I'm going to fall right off. So you can see it's not as exact as this, but we're sort of playing around, creating a space that's ish.
It's actually a beautiful line.
I know, thanks, Martha.
You did a good job on that line.
Thank you. I'm going to actually turn mine around and do the other side this way because that feels most comfortable to me. So I'm thinking we're not even going to start over here because it's really like way out here. Kind of goes in there. It's almost like a cloud of bellowing smoke around it. We're falling into the crack here, which is kind of fun.
And however, yours might have already gone into the other page. You know, maybe your aura was bigger.
Yeah, or even your initial shapes were bigger to begin with. So as you can see, this is really like become more an expression of what's there than to an exact, because you're stretching it out. It's starting to almost like smoke wood. It's like it's kind of starting to spread a little bit. Yeah. And like I said, what I try to do is try to find where those like indents are and kind of play around with that. So now we're going to do a little bit of a fun detail, whereas I'm going to sort of play around with almost creating some radiating lines that connect the two auras for fun. So I'm not going to do every point, I'm just going to do some, but you can watch me for a second here. I'm going to kind of play around with sort of some lines that come straight out, and whenever I do them, I'm going to do a double line. And
you're sort of playing where the divots are.
Yeah, sort of playing around where these divots are, and if there aren't any, I'm kind of maybe adding one. And they kind of, you know, lean this way and that because of the way the aura is, which is kind of fun. And then, of course, these two lines aura each other. Just kind of sneaks into everything we do. And these are little things you can do, these little varying the widths of your auras, and it adds all kinds of interest to whatever you're doing. And I think I like that they go kind of closer together and further apart. That kind of...
Yeah, I like that too.
Keeps it feeling alive.
I love the movement that it creates just by varying the angles of your lines and the spaces in between.
Totally. And then I think to kind of tie it together, I'm going to do, what do you think, everybody?
Yay!
Another fine aura, just to kind of pull that together.
It really does pull it together.
Right?
Like a frame.
I think what I'm going to do here, Martha, is going to do a little shading technique. What do you think?
Yeah. Let's bring in some little color, a little graphite.
Before we add our graphite, we're going to start off with this pastel chalk pencil, which is, it's a nice it complements Zentangle because it's like graphite, but it's color, so you can shade it and blend it.
Soft.
Yeah, so it is something we use often because we like the way it kind of mixes with it. So this is, I have an indigo blue, but you all might have a different color blue, which is kind of fun. And instead of just shading with this, I'm going to add some textured lines with it, which I think will be fine. So because it's a pencil, I can kind of press down and then lift up. Press down and then lift up. So I'm drawing one line, but I am kind of only pressing down on the edges. Oops.
You're pretty much leaving a highlight.
Yeah. And then we'll even manipulate that a little more later. There's always different ways to play with things, and right now we're sort of playing with different ways to shade. One thing I notice with Zentangle art, and as you progress, when you start off, you start with like these basic forms and everything. And I think as you progress, your forms don't become more complicated, but the layers you put down do. So as your practice grows, you start to become more involved in every shape you put down.
That's a good way of putting it. Well, as your practice grows, your familiarity and comfort grows with everything. So I think maybe as artists, we kind of seek out something a little bit more. So yes, I love drawing crescent moon, but how can we make it a little bit more?
Right, and just taking that time to sort of sit with it and add a little bit here or a little there, a layer there, and maybe a different way to shade something.
Well, and taking risks too, and you might not always love what comes out of it, but then it could lead to something that you absolutely adore.
And being okay with that.
Being okay with not loving every single thing that you draw, but it's part of your growth and it's part of your power, really.
Right, trusting that process.
And always what these lessons kind of stand for is just to launch you into something creative. Use what we're showing you, and you can draw what we're drawing, but take it wherever you want to go with it. And that's the gift here.
I learned how to do these lines from my mom. She does stuff like this all the time. Just pick up your pencil a little bit.
You should take a little step back and see how it looks really cool.
So fun. Yeah, don't hesitate to pause and take a look at your tile arm's length. I'm pressing pretty hard with this pencil, by the way. Just hard enough so it doesn't break, but I think I actually did break it a few times. All right, so now that we have our first layer of this blue down, now we can go back with the tortillon for the blue, and we can kind of go over it just a little bit.
Just blending some of it.
Right. Sort of to keep that texture, but not go over the highlight quite yet. And then if you want to do the outside at the same time. I'm going pretty lightly over this because I want to keep those lines. Trying to not get into that Knightsbridge because that black and white is so, I think, vivid and very cool. So I want to hang on to that.
I think adding Knightsbridge, oh my gosh, I just thought about this. It's like adding salt and pepper to your art.
Oh, it totally is.
It doesn't ever taste as good unless you add salt and pepper.
Right.
You gotta have a little Knightsbridge in there.
Yeah, I feel like you and I always are like, how about a little Knightsbridge border?
Yeah. Oh, well, it kind of goes without saying, too, that now we've just created a blue moon.
Oh, Martha, I love that.
It's really awesome.
All right, so now I'm going to add a little graphite over this to kind of pull it all together a little bit. So I'm going to go back and I'm just going to do a little bit here to show you, and then we'll go back and I think just a little bit. I'm not going to go all the way. Then maybe your tortillons do get a little muddied up, but let's see what we can do here.
Sort of anchoring those tethered lines as they come out from the Knightsbridge.
Yeah. So, and then maybe just a little bit on the other side too. I'm trying to not do all of it so we can get some, I think, some interest. So it's a little bit of a dark line. Just like that. Beautiful.
It's very subtle, but it's impactful.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to go around and do that. Again, this is what we were talking about. These are like just the little bits. And you know what? You don't have to do this if you don't want to. It takes a little while. All right. So it does take a while to get all the way around your moon, but I think it's worth it. And you can always do it any old way you want to. I'm just gonna sort of, with emphasis, go all the way around with my white chalk, just kind of over the bands here. I mean, it really does the job without it too, so it's up to you. I'm just gonna do some of them. All right, so that's pretty fun, Miss Martha.
Yeah. I mean, again, anytime you're in a process like this, you can decide when you're finished. What do you think, Miss Molly?
Should we add like a little graphite to the middle?
Just a little, maybe a little.
Yeah. Going back and forth with that one. I think maybe just right around the bottom here.
Yeah, just a fine layer. Pretty dark graphite.
Yeah.
Making sure not to touch the highlight of your crescent moons.
Right. And then with my, just a little bit. That does really make the aura around the moon pop,
Yeah,
right?
it does. It's very, it was deserving of this.
Wow. I would say that is radiating.
That's so beautiful. I love it. I love it. I love it so much.
Really, really fun.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us.
Oh my goodness. And I can't wait to see what you all do with it. And again, these are just like playing around with techniques, seeing what we can do with it, and having a little fun.
Yeah. Looking forward to seeing how everybody's moon comes out.
Take care.
Bye-bye.